So good morning to all. Thanks, Marie, for not being here when I'm thanking her. So what we thought would be a good idea was for Marie to have given this is what we should be doing when you want to implement Scrum or Agile and change into an organization. This is an experience report. So a very, very brief background about me. I actually work for Bluefly. We're an online retailer, pure play online retailer in apparel and accessories. We're based in New York City. We have an in-house development team. And I've been, in business analysis and project management for the last 7 to 8 years across a number of continents, just by nature of my sort of line of work and how I started out in this area. So, I think the title of this experience report pretty much, speaks to our journey since February of this year until today. And I think for the most part, and one of the most difficult things about putting this presentation together was the fact that there were so many things that, came out at us, and I had to really pick the high points, and there were too many, and so I really had to drill them down. This presentation may be a little long, so I'm going to try and, have you guys read the slides as we go, and then, feel free to contact me on, all of the other sort of granular, minute details of like, how did you guys deal with this? Because, we just went through it, we are still going through it, and I think will be a continual change, and always happy to help others in the same boat. So, this is sort of the agenda for my experience report. So, very quickly, Bluefly, based in New York, we have a full in-house technology team. Our development team, it's about 5 to 6 full-time developers. With the project that we are on right now, we actually had a very big influx of consultants, and they are also still based within our team. And so that really, increased the size of our team. I think we doubled our team in that sense. So we have the full, slew of, the entire team, the cross-functional team required to implement and deploy new projects. Typically, the sort of projects that we've been doing are new third-party integrations, and because we're an e-commerce site, they tend to be like Google Checkout, PayPal, and anything that's new, anything on this website that will encourage and draw customers to our site. So when I say customers, we always refer to the people who are buying our site. Our internal customers would be the business owners. So just to set that context, it's a little different from organization to organization, but that is the sort of landscape that we work on. So why we did it? We had an unpredictable track record for project delivery. And when I say this, it's not a statement in terms of competence or anything like that. It's just that there were times in projects where we were spot on, within 2 weeks of projected delivery date. Now that's awesome from a traditional project management perspective, especially in a sort of in a landscape where the business moves so quickly and the environment changes so quickly. But then there were also times when we weren't able to deliver for a multitude of reasons: scope creep, business requirements changing. We get to the end of the project and we're like, why do we have this? We had sort of a conflict in our business owners within the organization where, he didn't really see the executive sponsor, didn't really see the product until like 2 days before we were going to deploy. And he's like, actually, I want this changed. And so, how you can argue and negotiate all you want, but the bottom line is, if our customers need to buy something on our site and they're not happy with it, and that's how he determines, that's how he makes his decision, we're not deploying it, because within e-commerce, we're always one click away, the customer's always one click away from going to your competitors. And it's very, very important for us to be able to provide that rich, valuable customer experience every single time. We had a big platform migration project to implement. On this factor, it was on both sides. Business understaffed, under-resourced due to turnover. From the technology side, because it was a new proprietary platform, we actually are moving to an ATG platform. We didn't really have the knowledge base, the experience of what it could do, and both sides didn't know what this could really do. And so, pretty much meant that we're dealing with this huge sort of cloud where we had to do something, and we're sort of paralyzed at the beginning to actually start. To even have a kickoff meeting was very difficult, because we had very many different cross-functional teams saying, well, I'm not ready for this meeting yet. Well, it's like, it's not about getting ready for this meeting, it's to start this project going. Obviously, within the e-commerce world and retailing, we have hard targets for this time of the year, Q4. We can't really do anything dramatic because it happens to be the most, the busiest time of the year for us. One of the other reasons is the manager's inherent belief in iterative development. I added the word managers in after my initial draft presentation, and we'll go to that one. So, and then we also had a lot of feedback from people outside of the organization. By outside, I mean, our peers, people who had come in over the years and said, hey, these XP is great, Agile is great. Davide was also one of the proponents for Agile development a year and a half before we actually started this. So, it was sort of stewing in our minds and stuff like that. And all of this stuff sort of made us decide, hey, maybe we should do it. So we come to the how. Now, this was really, really interesting. So the managers went to Scrum training. I'm one of them. The tech management made a decision with pretty much little input from the effective teams. And, when I say this statement, another thing I have to throw out there is that within Bluefly, our technology organization is pretty flat. Decisions don't tend to come top down like that. We tend to always discuss things like that. So this is one of those huge process changes that kind of was implemented without the sort of feedback from the teams that would be affected, which was everyone. We engaged a Scrum process mentor to facilitate this transition because we knew that we're going to be new to this and we need someone who knows what to do to guide us along the way. We reorganized the teams into Scrum teams, and by nature of the project, we actually had the multi-Scrum team set up. Now that's also an added complexity to just doing like one Scrum team, having multiple Scrum teams developing on a platform migration project. That really added that layer of complexity as well. We did not pilot. We applied this methodology to the platform migration project. It has high visibility, huge corporate strategic significance. But it did have the support of the business owners, of all the business owners within the organization, because everyone felt that this project is very important. We have dates that we need to adhere to. We have shareholders that we need to report to. We have board members. We have all of these parties. And it was imperative, and based also on our history, 4 years ago, we actually implemented a platform migration, which did not go well. And so when everything's hinging on it, they needed something where they could get reporting of some sort or visibility into a very big project that would take an extended period of time. So this is how we started doing it. And just a quick slide on the Scrum framework that we used. So everything up to here is what's recommended from a typical Scrum framework perspective. We added the Super Scrum for all the Scrum teams to meet, the stand-up meeting. Basically, we had the Scrum Masters and tech reps from each of the teams to meet for 15 minutes every day, talk about impediments and what we should do, sort of accelerate the process going. And then we also added an architecture review where when teams were coming up with overall or architecture-related or design-related solutions that could potentially impact more than just that particular class you're writing, we could discuss it. You could discuss your design with the team, get feedback, and then just move on. These were just, one of the important things about this was just to ensure, I think also instill sort of a mutual trust that that team is actually doing it the right way and not like, I don't know what that team's doing and, we're going to pay the price for it if it's not the right solution. So it's very hard. From the process point of view, planning, and reporting, to Marie's point, reporting is something that we definitely need help in. But planning, I can't even I can't even describe how important it is, especially within a multi-Scrum team setup. We have a release plan that we have to manage. We need to make sure that if there are components that people are developing and, other teams may be sort of dependent on them, we just need to make sure that, things would still work 2 sprints on. So, and this was all over the place in the beginning and very inconsistent, and I didn't really get a handle on it until about 3 months into it. And how we'd actually, and just a very quick sort of purview into how we did our release planning was that because we were looking at a very extended time period, our Scrum process mentor basically said to us, you can try a 3-sprint and a release to a QA environment so that you can see where you are and teams can see where they are instead of going sprint to sprint to sprint to sprint to that end goal. And it allows the business also to get the sort of level of confidence that you're getting somewhere. So that's what we started with. We started with a 3-sprint and stabilization sprint because we still needed to get our act together, moving from a traditional sort of software development perspective. Go ahead.
Canice, how long were your sprints?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
2 weeks.
From the beginning on?
Yes.
Okay.
We stuck with the 2 weeks, and it was very tough at the beginning, yeah.
What was the resource makeup of your Scrum teams? What were the resource goals?
We have at least 2 developers. So we have developers, QA, a business analyst, or half a business analyst, because we were also very, sharing. Not supposed to be sharing. The Scrum Master would be, when we started, would be taken on by one of the people within the team. We also have, we had developers, QA, business analysts, and initially when we started, we had the operational team, the sysops, sysadmins, DBAs, also part of the team, but it was very, very difficult to manage that because they had to deal with production-related stuff. So anytime that happens, they're out. So we managed over time to figure something out that would work for them and for us, and so they became outside of a team but very closely linked. And we used the Super Scrum to facilitate a lot of the communication around that. So we had the release cycles, like I mentioned, and this, basically, we would go from a release-to-release perspective and say, these are the things that are very important. We did the breadth first development before going depth. Now, that's really hard when the project actually spans the entire company. Test-driven development was very hard because when you work on a proprietary platform, automated testing was not, we found to be not tenable. We spent a couple of sprints with technical spikes to try and investigate how it is that we could do automated unit testing. We came with a number of solutions, but realized that we couldn't do it.
Proprietary to
ATG. ATG.
Which is your parent company?
No, ATG is the e-commerce platform that we bought and are currently customizing for our business. So it's an e-commerce framework, basically, where they sell you the commerce package and all of the other associated components. And so we're actually in the process of customizing those to suit our business needs.
Was testability a choice, a factor in your choice of proprietary platforms?
Yes. But when we were doing the review of the platform, we had not really gone to the deep dive of how can automated unit testing be done. This was done last year. Was that right, David? I was out for 3 months of last year, so. David, if you can speak to that.
Yeah, I was going to say this is actually a point with which I disagree with you slightly. Is testing of ATG is hard. It's not impossible. But I think generally, bigger picture of testing is hard.
Yes.
And I think one of the hurdles for some of our developers has been getting over that fact that testing is hard.
And it takes time, and it's not like I can just deploy this. We have, however, on the QA side, been able to do the automated functional testing. So we're taking baby steps. I mean, we learned very early on that it's very, very difficult to take like the first 5 things that you need to do from an engineering practices perspective in the midst of change to implement all of that. Pair programming was of course, another one of the engineering practices that was espoused and recommended. And initially the reaction was like, the last thing I want is someone sitting with me all day, so back off. So these, from a process perspective, that was pretty hard. A lot more, but I'm not going to be covering that today. So from a project perspective, it was very, very hard. We had a product owner that is not strong, wasn't trained to understand what it was. All he wanted was a project that he knew would be delivered in a certain amount of time. He gave us the business, these are the target dates we need to hit. Let's see what we can get. The prioritization of the backlog and the engagement, the level of engagement, definitely, as a organizational perspective, that's what we continue to suffer on today because we're building these features, his level of engagement actually stops at the review meeting. He's like, oh, that looks great, guys. Well, what are the stories we're going to do? Let's do that, 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 and that. And then 2 weeks later, we see him, we're doing the stories that he said, these are the ones you do, but he's not really looking at everything that we've built already. So that remains a bit of a challenge. And it was very, very hard and continues to be very hard today. The challenge of design as you go, definitely a big shift from the traditional software development life cycle where you can do the architectural design and all this stuff. I think it continues to be an uncomfortable notion. We've got over most of it because we've got over the first 6 months of the project, and most of the major decisions need to be made, have been made, but that was difficult. And that it was a very big project. It reaches into every part of the organization, operationally, process-wise, customers, and yeah, that's for piloting, I guess. So down to the really, really, really hard part. It was the people factor. I'm using the 3 Ps of traditional projects. Team reorganization, we had role ambiguity. The reorg was involuntary. Was imposed from top down, and to a large extent, there was a sense of a loss of identity, that I am no longer part of the PMO group. I am part of a Scrum team, but what happens? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And we went through a lot of that in the first couple of months. So be aware of this part. Who do I report to? Just like I report to 7 managers. Like, come on, like, do I have to tell you everything I'm doing every single day? And like, what I'm going to do tomorrow? What's holding me back? And how does my manager, know what I'm doing? How am I going to be reviewed? And then co-location was a big thing. I think it was the idea that, well, I have IM, I have email, I have phone. We never use phone, actually. We have IM and we have email. So why do I have to sit next to this person in my team when I can very easily communicate right here? And co-location is one of those. It's not a prerequisite for Scrum, but it really greatly facilitates the team communication and dynamics. And so that was a tough transition for our team at the beginning stages. And we just also went through another sort of co-location / team reorg a couple of weeks ago because we needed to resource another project, and so we sort of split one team up into 2. And so this time around, it went not as bad as the first time because I think we kind of learned some things from it. And then the concept of self-organization, that it's like self-organized, damn it! Like, can you guys get it? Come on! I think a lot of it's got to do with the fact that Agile, from its traditional roots, comes from the groundswell. Like a couple of developers decide, what, this is a great way to do it. Let's do it this way, skunk work type things. And so when this is a sort of top down, you have to navigate, what it used to be and how I want to work and where I work and things like that. So the self-organization part that is espoused from a Scrum perspective, that teams self-organize around the stories that they take, the decisions that they make, and they don't really need their functional managers to tell them this is the way you go, or like an overarching tech arc. So that part was pretty hard to sort of get around. Do you have any questions? Did you have no? Yes.
So on every team. Every time you try to do this kind of thing, this big sweeping transformation, there's people who either don't want to fit the mold, this is something that's not going to work for them, or there's people who just can't fit the mold. What was your attrition rate? I don't know if somebody can...
How many people? I'm sorry, I think one person left, right? 2? Oh, 2 people left. I'm sorry. 2 people left since February from the Scrum team perspective.
So in addition to the attrition, I'm also interested in. It sounds like you would almost know attrition for a team that is so large. Losing 2 people is, but the people that didn't leave. There must have been people that didn't fit the mold or that couldn't make the adjustment, right?
For the people that didn't leave?
Yeah, like you said that it came from top down. It was a reorganization that was mandatory. Does that mean that there was no buy-in at the onset? Did people walk into work on, one day and say, you will get into a Scrum team now and reorganize yourselves?
About there. Would
Okay,
you say, Davide? It's about
So,
there.
yeah, so what did that teach the folks on the team about some of the principles of agility? About being sort
Therein
of...
lies the lessons learned. Underestimating the tolerance to change. At the outset, our team has always been about, we embrace change, we're able to change with the business, we can adapt to the changes that the business comes to us. Even when we were in a traditional software project management perspective, when there were changes, we're like, okay, let's see what we can do. I know we don't always say no at the outset unless it's something that it's like impossible at the out, it's impossible. But we've always said, let's see what we can do and see what we can shift around. So we always thought we could change. But I think we underestimated the tolerance for change. There's one thing to change. Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm looking from the.
You thought people would be able to tolerate change better than they actually.
Yes. 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 But yes, maybe it's overestimating. Yeah, I guess it is. But essentially, that was a lot of it. Yeah. I think my initial word was appetite, like what it is. But it was a tolerance level. The amount over a short period of time, takes its toll. Even on the most change, risk-seeking person, that tends to affect them after a while. We at the outset didn't set the boundaries of team makes decision. To your comment, Marie, about Agile and the framework. The team makes a decision, but you can't make a decision that you decide you don't want to come to work today, or we're not coming to work this week. It's just that concept. It's like a pendulum, right? You swing one way and then you're on the other side, and just that adjustment period. Short iterations doesn't mean faster. I think that's something I have to repeat to myself every single day. Or our team sometimes like, it doesn't mean we have to do things faster. We need to do things right. We need to be able to, do the testing around it. We need to be able to show something that actually works, not on your dev box, but in an integration environment. The challenge with team versus individual performance is a change that we are currently still navigating around. Like, how do we change our performance reviews to reflect the fact that now it's teamwork and your functional managers and with you on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis, et cetera, et cetera. So this is, I think, a focus for the Q4 to try and figure out what it is that we can do that is actually of value to both the manager and, the direct report. I'm like, what does it really mean that, am I still the star developer? Am I still the star performer? What does it really mean? This one I have a lot of angst around. Decision making, when it's on a sort of democratic sort of level, can lead to mediocre solutions. I'm not saying that it always does, but people discussing, and then it becomes an argument, and then okay, fine, whatever. And it also adds to, if it's a team decision, well, I don't have to make a decision, and no one really wants to vote. So sort of a paralysis in that area. And following from that is the groupthink mentality, where after this and then this, you're like, what? Just get somewhere. I don't care. Just some sort of solution that can work, and I don't have to deal with this anymore. So these are the two areas that I think we have to continue to monitor very carefully to make sure that the solution that we come up with, or any decision we come up with, is actually best for the team, the organization, and whatever it is that we're building, and not just so we can get things going. Go ahead.
What kind of decisions are you making democratically? You have priorities set by the product owner, and there's various roles who have unique or dedicated decision making.
A lot of this comes into the technology decisions that need to be made. Messaging systems, what's the best technology? What's another one, Davide? So many. Oh, how we should structure our code base into what kind of folder components and things like that. That a lot within the purview of the technology teams that affect all. Go ahead.
Even things like build system,
the build system. Because it's a new build system we had to do to support our, Agile environment. Did that answer your question? Yeah, it's not anything outside of it. It's just all of these things that, because we have control now, right? We can make change for the next couple of years that we're not going to live the decisions of someone that's no longer vested in our teams. And we thought people would love Scrum. They didn't. And when I did this presentation to the team earlier this week, and it could be the implementation of Scrum that they didn't like. So that's one of the things that we relearned. Because it's great, right? I mean, you can show things. Go ahead.
Can you explain why they didn't like it? It seems to me that, from a development standpoint, you're kind of empowered to make a lot of decisions.
Exactly.
Collaborative.
Exactly.
What decisions did they not like? Did they just want to solve problems and not really come up with problems?
Same question was asked, right? It's the change. I think it's the change. I think it's all the changes. I think it's the way in which we changed. Davide could speak a little bit more to it if he wants to, in terms of from the developer perspective, what he may have felt, hypothetically.
I think maybe there was also initially some dissonance between being told go on a organized do your thing and having certain things imposed on us. I know a lot of people did it like that. We've been told we can do what we want. Obviously, teams need to do what they want within certain limits, but I think a lot of people felt like we've been told what we want, but here are the rules and here's what we can do. And so they felt like, well,
So in areas of co-location, that was a big thing. Well, as a team, we can do anything we want. We don't want to co-locate. I don't want to sit next to this person. I'm fine where I am, and I can IM them if I need to. So those are the sort of the softer areas, not necessarily the hard process perspective. Marie, yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna so my reaction to this question, which is really good, is why did the team have an easier time with adoption or adaptation to these new practices? Is that, and I don't mean to keep coming back to it, but they weren't given a choice. They were told that they had to do this. So I'm not surprised that there wasn't buy-in to that. Mm-hmm. Of course, you've got the renegades that that really want to do Agile because it means that they get to make decisions for the team. And but to me, it seems like the message that was communicated by management in this case was, you will do this, mm-hmm. and you don't get a say in that decision, but the end result is that now we expect you to make all the decisions.
Yes.
We don't know that they have.
That is exactly it. That is exactly it. And hence, all of that. Go ahead.
So a couple of things stand out for me. I don't know if it's premature. I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's too many things.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things there says performance reviews and pass on performance reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I guess something that's a prerequisite might be a prerequisite or might be a helpful factor is that people have trust in the review process where it's like a 360 thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Choose their evaluators.
And that is what we've started to do. But we needed to make sure that the 360 process was not onerous, because 360 processes can be very onerous, right? And that's what we're piloting. We're learning.
The other thing is, it struck me that the name of this is Agile Programming or Project Leadership Network. Right? So the two words that stand out there are Agile and leadership, which might seem like there's a little tension there.
Mm-hmm.
You expect Agile to be high participation from everybody at every level, which mm-hmm. It is.
Mm-hmm.
But you still need leaders, especially
yes.
leaders who set the tone of architectural discussions and decision making. Chief engineers or chief mm-hmm. architects who can lead debates at the whiteboard effectively, where people can argue passionately and they feel free to do so, mm-hmm. knowing that you're going to make a decision based on the merits, and then
It's a great point.
It's not a game of politics or power plays, or whatever. It's really people collaborating to come up with the best solution.
Great point. Last slide, because this is the most important part.
Okay.
Oh, we had insufficient coaching and mentoring, but we know that. This is why it's important, this slide, because we have huge wins. On engineering practices, we have continuous integration. I mean, this is huge in our organization. We release at the end of every sprint, where we could not even release properly at the end of 3 months. We're releasing at the end of every sprint. We're learning to bring that closer to make it a very efficient process, but we're doing it, and that's huge. We have automated testing using Jamilian on everything that can be, and we continue to build that into every story we have and every acceptance criteria we have. Whatever stories that we have not had already, we're actually using it well. You know, when we get back there, let's create a story in every sprint to start doing all of that.
Does it allow you to make changes to BCC or ACC, and then can you come back and see the results of the sprint?
We don't have automated system around the changes in BCC and ACC. I want your card. Teamwork. This is huge. I know everything that we said before, but we're finishing stories. We're carrying each other through each sprint. The times when people are out, people can do it. We're coalescing around that. We have confidence in what we can achieve for a sprint, for a release, not necessarily from a velocity perspective, but we kind of have that. I think we can do this. You know, we're working toward the great discipline of knowing the consistency of story points. But you know, we're getting there. The increased ownership across functional boundaries is no longer just QA, it's also us, everyone has a hand in it. The development team, and by say development, but basically developers within the Scrum teams now know more about the release process than they ever have. And they now respect that, wow, it's a lot of work. We better get our butts together and get those SQL scripts going properly and make sure we test all those things. So definitely a lot of ownership around there. And then this one is like more of a groundswell. I mean, the teams are themselves seeking improvement in the process, coming up with ways, how can we better do reporting? How can we better track all the stories we need to do? Huge. Probably a lot more, but these are the real high points. In terms of documentation, better than ever. I know documentation is not the stalwart of Agile and stuff, but this means that we are going to have a reduced reliance on institutional knowledge. Bluefly is a very small company, and everything right now is either in the heads of, it's probably in the heads of 5 people. If they're not in, they're on vacation, and something goes wrong, they get called on vacation. They have to get to a computer and fix the problem. And so the combination of these two, we are anticipating is going to really help us move. We're creating that knowledge base, and we're using the wiki, sort of misusing it a little bit, but we're using the wiki as a central place where we can actually put information about what classes I changed because of this particular story. In that area, we're also sort of trying to evolve and see what's going to be best for our company. We started to self-organize. Someone made a comment during my presentation on Monday within the team that, at the beginning, there was a very vocal complaint that there are too many meetings that we're going to, in addition to all the Scrum meetings, we have Super Scrum, we have all that stuff. And he basically made the observation that we don't really hear that anymore, We've either self-organized our way to having less meetings and got the things done without having to have a meeting. And so I thought that was a really big positive, comment or observation that he made. We have, when I say sort of more real prioritization efforts in the sense that we're forcing the prioritization decision from the product owner rather than his usual wait-and-see approach. And by that I mean, well, you have to decide whether you want the story or the story. And he can't say, well, let's see where we are in October, and then maybe while you're in there, just add that. So we're forcing that and that discipline into him, and now he has another resource that works with him to basically make those what is really, really important and what's bell and whistle. And then finally, in terms of managing the business expectations beyond the product owner and the technology team, is that we can actually give products update through a demonstration of the product, rather than saying, we're 50% way through development, see you next week. Typically that's being the thing. So this is pretty big, and I think in the coming months, I'm trying to create a program around the Agile portfolio management perspective, where we will be able to, from a senior executive level, have a meeting where we're going to be demonstrating and showcasing all the projects that our teams are doing once we get off this really massive project that all teams are working on. So that's the sort of model I'm trying to get to, and that's pretty much all I had. We have big wins.
I just want to, one question or?
It's a question.
One of the things that, I mean, I can definitely see the Scrum process working really well within the team and within, a finite set of boundaries and whatnot. But in a larger organization, you have multiple Scrum teams going on those variety of different tracks. I kind of see the risk of, each of those teams kind of operating in silos. And sometimes repeating the same things, every single team are doing the same things, and, it comes at a risk of kind of engineering best practice, if you will. So, who's actually having an insight on each of those individual Scrum teams and say, hey, if you have 3 teams and you're spending 20% doing the same exact development, and maybe those 20% could kind of be pulled out into some kind of standard API tools. Like, do you guys have any of those problems?
We did do and probably will continue to do so. So how we have that is our super scrums, pretty much we're supposed to basically say, we're going to work on this. Our sort of mode of operation is that if you're going to build something that potentially be used by others, build it, you're in charge of it. If we need to refactor it, we will, the next team that has to do it will refactor it and add their stuff. That's one. Not all the time, but that's one of the sort of frameworks we try to go toward. The second one is, because we're so under-resourced, I'm actually on many teams as are other people, and so we're like the eyes and ears and say, hey, you know what, someone on that team just built that, so you can use that. So we try and facilitate that inter-team communication, especially very early on when teams were working in silos. We didn't really know what was going on. And we try to have cross-team code reviews as well, and things like that. And we don't know what the solution is, but we're trying in all of these areas to try and really tease out all the areas that we can actually create the API for.